to another episode of Bird Gang Nation Sports Talk. I'm your host, Bird Gang 31. Today, Nation, we have a very special guest from the Painted Lines, Mr. Half and Half. How you doing today, my guy?
I'm doing great. Excited to get on here and talk some Eagles. Spent all off season breaking down the draft, and it's fun to actually get back to the real meat and potatoes, the Eagles weekly. Excited to get into it.
Hey, yes, it is, man. Football is here. We are 2 games in. How do you like the team so far? Give me some pluses and some minuses that you feel about our team.
Yeah, I think you're seeing we've got the new coaching staff, first time play callers on both sides of the ball. I think you're seeing some ups and downs. We had some incredible highs week one where everything Nick Sirianni called seemed to just work perfectly. Jonathan Gannon made some great adjustments after the couple opening drives from the Falcons, and then we hit some lows week two. The play calling I thought was pretty poor in week two, and
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of negativity online. I think if those games were switched, if we played, the week two game first, people would be really high right now. And so I think people just have to understand there's going to be some ebbs and flows. And, overall, if we see that kind of play calling week 7 and 8, I'd be concerned. But you got a new quarterback, you got new guys all over the place. And so I think you got to give them some time to settle in.
Yeah, man, I think that's exactly where it's at. Nick Sirianni had his first real game in the NFL. I kind of look at the Atlanta game, seeming like it was an extra preseason game the way it was running, you know what I'm saying? But he came against a really good playoff contending team of the 49ers, and I think he got to really check out and see how it is, to play against a playoff contending type team early in the season. Like his play calling, they're both in the beginning of that game, Shanahan and him, they're kind of playing it easy, trying to play chess basically. It's who's going to make the first move. But then once Shanahan made his move, you just seen him stick to it, he executed, he kept attacking the same spots, and it seemed like Nick kind of stayed in the same groove that he was in. He never went into that attack mode to really, change the outcome of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like either way, the game could have been won. We made some mistakes. We definitely got to stop with all these penalties costing us the game. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of penalties out there. The third down where it was a fumble and then Barnett hits that guy, and now instead of a fourth down, you're looking at a 1st and 10 for the 49ers. So I do think, even though I do not like the play calling on both sides, for me, like the play calling kind of seemed like the whole WP and Schwartz play calling towards the middle of that game. You know what I'm saying? That shell defense where they're taking everything, the 5-yard, 7-yard range, you know what I'm saying, in that open space in the zone, just tearing it up. And then, like when the defense is out in the field for that long, man, of course, eventually they're going to start scoring some points.
Yeah, by the way, I think that I read online that was the 8th personal foul for Derek Barnett in his career. He just does some incredibly dumb things that personally, that song and dance has run out with me. I'm sick of the big penalties and just totally avoidable situations from him.
And then what's Nicky saying? What's the under/over of Nick Sirianni being spotted in Lindros jersey? I don't want to hear the bet going. Oh man, I don't know about that one. I don't even know who Lindros is. Who's that guy?
I'm not sure.
But yeah, back to the situation. So I did like the defense though. I like the fact that we've only given up 24 points or 26 points in the first 2 games. I think that's really crucial. And no matter how much I thought they started to play that defense, the defense is kind of working out there. You know what I'm saying? They're keeping opponents down on the scoreboard. Any game where the offense isn't scoring, the defense is going to end up, getting some points scoring them. They're on the field too long. There's too much time out there. So, of course, that would be an outcome if our offense doesn't get it together against these Cowboys.
Yeah, I've really liked what I've seen out of Jonathan Gannon's defense. One of my favorite things is just his willingness to make adjustments. In the Falcons game, those first 2 drives, they marched the ball right down the field on us, largely on the running game, which nobody expected. But if you go back and watch those, the Eagles were in these 3-down defensive fronts, this 3-4 look. And in that 3-4 look, you've got to understand your linebackers have to be able to fill gaps and make tackles, and they weren't doing it. And so he came away from that completely, and we clamped down on the Falcons. Well, week 2, we brought that back. We were mixing up those 3 and 4 down looks, and it was working really well. It puts a lot bigger burden on your offensive line to scheme up pass protections when you're in those multiple fronts. And so I like that he's adjusted there. I liked that he's had a good flow of the game. When something's not working, he switches away from it. And that was one of my biggest complaints with Jim Schwartz for years, is you knew exactly what he was going to do, and if it wasn't working, he was just going to keep doing it. But Jonathan Gannon, he's willing to throw that curveball. He's willing to change it up, and so I really like what I've seen out of him so far.
Yeah, like I said, I can't hate too much on the defensive side. When I give the defense their grades for the last 2 weeks, they definitely have passing grades, if not great grades. But the offense side of the ball is where I'm more concerned about. But how do you think, while we're on the defense, how do you think the defense is going to handle with the loss of Brandon Graham?
I think, I was surprised to go back and look at the snap counts from week 2 and see that Barnett outsnapped Josh Sweat. I really expected Sweat to be getting more play time than he has. And so I think you're going to see Sweat more in that rotation. Even Ryan Kerrigan outsnapped Sweat in week 2, and I'm not sure why, unless maybe there was some sort of minor injury that happened in the game. And I think you'll see Milton Williams kicked out to defensive end probably a little bit more as well. I don't think you're probably going to see a lot of Taron Jackson yet, but I think it's some combination of those guys are going to have to fill in that gap.
Yeah, man, Sweat was on the sideline a lot that game. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand how you pay a man that much money, and trying to make him seem like he's going to be one of the faces on that defensive line and not put him in the game. But definitely we're going to need him now that, BG's out. I think there's probably going to keep the rotation between Barnett and Sweat going maybe a little bit more evenly, than it has been. And then over there on the other side, having Kerrigan and Milton Williams get their roles over there on the other side of the end.
Yeah, I was really surprised, right on the heels of them announcing that contract extension, that he played so little. And so it did make me wonder, if he just had a real minor tweak of, something, a hamstring, whatever in the game, and maybe that's what limited him. And I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen that anywhere, but just kind of grasping for straws as to what might have happened.
Yeah, man. And flipping on the other side, we got a question from Uncensored. He said, how you guys feel about Hurts? More rollout and throw quarterback over pocket passer. I like his throws in the pocket. I just feel he is more accurate and more powerful when he's running.
Yeah, I think Hurts is at his best when he's under pressure and he gets away from that pressure. I think Hurts is at his worst when he's in the pocket and he thinks there's pressure, but there's not. Mm-hmm. And so I think you want to design things to get him out, but also you got to see him take a step as a pocket passer, because if the only way you can make plays is out of the pocket, eventually teams are just going to key on that and contain it. So I like getting him out of the pocket. I think he does really well there, but I do want to see him take some steps as a pocket passer as well.
Yeah, because I think he could definitely do it. But I also think we need to use more RPOs, and not even just in the sense like when everybody thinks the RPO, they think it's Hurts running the ball or Miles Sanders running the ball. But you've seen that year with the Super Bowl when Nick Foles ran a lot of RPOs, and Nick wasn't running the ball nowhere. Everybody knows Nick wasn't mobile, but it was effective because people had to respect it, and now you even have to respect it even more with Jalen Hurts and his feet, his legs, what I'm saying, of actually running it. But I think we need to set up more plays running out of the RPOs, set maybe some of that 21 personnel where you got Gainwell back there, you got Sanders back there running some option, and then you let the run game get started, then you be able to, pop up, tight end pop or go deep to Quest some more, or, just get everybody else more involved from that. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, the RPO and the read option game is really nice for just it takes a defender out of the play. I mean, if you look at a read option, you're leaving you're leaving a Nick Bosa unblocked. And if he dives on the running back, you keep it and run. If he stands up, you hand it off. You're taking their best defensive player. And no matter what decision he makes, you just make him wrong. And it's the same thing with the RPOs. You try to take that linebacker. If he stays out of the run fit, you hand it off and you get a few easy yards. And if he comes up, you just throw that easy slant behind him. And so I think that read option game, that RPO game, it's really good. It's not a replacement for being able to push the ball downfield and make those pocket throws, but it certainly takes some of that pressure off and makes it a little easier for him.
Okay. Do you think everybody's starting to talk about Jalen's arm? Do you think how do you feel about it? Do you think he has a strong arm and he needs to work on more accurate throws? Or do you think he is lacking the strength in arm, like everybody says out here?
I think his arm's fine. He doesn't have a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes type of arm, but he's got an NFL arm. I think it was Joe Montana that said, if throwing the ball 70 yards was a requirement to be in the league, he never would have made it. And so, if you can, to me, it's not about being able to throw the ball 70, 80 yards. It's about being able to drive those sideline throws outside the numbers. And we've seen Hurts do that. Last year, at the end of the year, their go-to concept with Hurts was a flood concept. They'd run off the safety and they'd throw the corner route behind it, and Hurts could drive into those throws and make it. So to me, I'm not concerned about the arm strength. I'm a little concerned about the accuracy being shaky sometimes.
But like that one deep ball he threw to I think it was Rager last game, where he threw it inside and Rager had to become the defender on the play. But the outside, if you threw the outside shoulder, there was no one over there, and you probably even got a touchdown.
Right. Anybody's capable of that, because you saw him drop one in the bucket to Quez Watkins, that 91-yard pass this game. And, I mean, he made a beautiful throw to Jalen Rager that should have been a touchdown. And Rager, that's on Rager. You can't allow yourself to be squeezed into the sideline like that. So, how do people view Hurts's game if that touchdown stands? Well, he's got an extra 50 yards and a touchdown, so probably quite a bit better. But that's not on Hurts. He made a beautiful throw. That's on his receiver. It let him down. So I think the arm strength is fine. It's not like elite. It's fine. But I think the accuracy is something we got to work on, especially from those pockets.
Yeah. With the receivers, how do you see these guys doing so far? You've seen Devontae Smith come out first play touchdown of his career, 75 yards off 7 catches. And you also seen, Quez Watkins not be so effective the first game, but then the second game, Quez with his 117 off 2 catches, that 91-yard bomb being one. But they did double team Devontae Smith a lot in that game, to the point where he only ended up with 2 catches. So how do you see the skill level of our receivers? You still see it as being a great group, or do you think they're definitely work in progress?
I think it's a work in progress. I mean, you've got a lot of young guys there. You got a second-year guy in Rager, second-year guy in Watkins, and a rookie in Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith's a great route runner. He can separate easily, and I think you're going to see teams do exactly what happened to us on Sunday. They're going to double team him, and so one of these other guys has to step up. And Watkins has shown he can make those flash plays. Can he make those consistent plays though? And then Jalen Rager. I'm personally not very impressed with Jalen Rager. I know, he had the touchdown week 1, but my biggest knock on him was never his athleticism. It's his route running. And his touchdown was a screen pass. He didn't have to run a route. And so I need to see him grow there. I mean, through 2 games, he's only got like 54 yards receiving, which is not ideal for, your first round pick from a year ago. So, and again, it's early in the season. I put it this way. On Sunday, I thought we saw poor quarterback play, poor offensive game plan, and poor receiver play, but it's really hard to separate like which of those caused the others. Was it a poor game plan that failed to get receivers open? Was it receivers failing to separate that caused Hurts to look bad? I mean, it's all related, and it's kind of hard to know exactly where the fault lies, but overall it was bad Sunday, and I don't expect it to be as bad this Monday night against the Cowboys.
Yeah. You've seen Zach Ertz. There's a possibility he might not be playing this game. He has COVID, even though he is vaccinated, so we don't know exactly how long he's going to be. There's a possibility, but a very slim possibility, that he plays this Monday. And I seen that we signed Richard Rodgers back to the practice squad. So how do you feel about the tight end situation going into the game?
Yeah, it kind of puts us in the situation we were in last year when Ertz was, Ertz and Goddard took turns being banged up last year, and Richard Rodgers was a fine tight end too in those situations. It's obviously a step back to go from Ertz to Rodgers, but I don't think it's a huge step back to have Rodgers as your tight end too, especially as little as we utilized the tight ends last week, which is a problem with the game plan too. You need them to work that intermediate area of the field. And that was missing on Sunday. So I think Rodgers will be fine. He's been here for a couple of years. He's going to know the offense. I don't have any concerns about him being out on the field.
Okay. And then another big downer that we have going into this game is Brandon Brooks is out. He's on IR. We have the rookie Landon Dickerson coming in. What do you expect from Landon in this game?
I think he's going to look better than he did last week. One of the things, I'm kind of an O-line guy. That's kind of where I came up through, starting to study the draft and stuff. And so I entered the game with my eyes glued to Mailata against Bosa. That's that matchup I wanted to watch. But as soon as Brooks went down, like Dickerson was the guy I was focused on the rest of the game. And Dickerson was pretty poor in that game. PFF charted him with allowing 5 pressures on 20 pass blocking snaps. I didn't chart that. I didn't chart it myself, but I noticed he was struggling. And I think it's to be expected. I mean, he was injured a year ago. He didn't participate in training camp. I know he's a good player. I fully expect him coming off of a week of starter reps this week to look a lot better at that right guard position. And he's not exactly going against like a fearsome interior pass rush from the Cowboys. So I think he's going to be fine. And I think we'll see him really grow, leaps and bounds each week because he's a very talented player.
Yeah.
He just got some rust to knock off.
Yeah, I think it was the rush, like not having first team reps, all week at the right tackle spot, and then just getting thrust into a game you probably didn't even think you were going to play in. Probably it was some of that reason why he probably didn't play as well. But yeah, after a full week of first team reps, he definitely should be playing a lot better this week.
It's hard for a vet to come into a game cold they didn't expect to, much less a rookie that hasn't played a down in almost 2 years. So I totally understand. I expect him to be a lot better this week.
Okay. Well, we do got the Cowboys, man. Tell me what you know about the Cowboys so far of what you've seen this year. How do you rate their team?
So the Cowboys have kind of been bitten by the injury bug too, with Michael Gallup going down with a short-term injury and then DeMarcus Lawrence for a longer-term injury. I don't think he's out for the year, but he's going to miss a significant portion of it. Mm-hmm. One of the kind of side benefits for the Cowboys of that, though, is they put Micah Parsons more as an edge rusher than a linebacker in week 2, and he was phenomenal. I mean, this is a guy that wasn't asked to cover much in college, and so it was kind of head-scratching when the Cowboys took him in the first round. When they get him rushing off the edge is when he's going to be at his best. So, to be honest, I'm not going to say he's a better edge rusher than DeMarcus Lawrence because Lawrence has proven it over several years, but he's on that level. Wow. So the Cowboys pass rush, they're going to have good pressure coming from one side. Fortunately, we've got both of our tackles healthy, and so I feel good there. We need to be able to exploit that secondary. If we can't throw the ball on the Cowboys, then I've got some questions. And so I want to see us be able to attack downfield and move the ball on what's kind of a porous defense. And then it'll be the stiffest test for our defense so far. I mean, the Cowboys have a great passing attack. Mm-hmm. I really like how they've committed to using Tony Pollard more. Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott do radically different things well. Pollard is great in space. As Zeke is that guy that's going to turn a 2-yard run into a 4-yard run consistently. And so I think they'll pound Zeke between the tackles. And I think they're going to try to get Pollard out in space to where he can kind of use his elusiveness against our linebackers that have been pretty poor in tackling through 2 games.
Yeah, our linebackers definitely need to step it up there. I did notice that you were talking about like the whole Parsons playing DN. Do you think he has a shot? Because we seen Bosa last week, but that's Bosa. You know what I'm saying? He's probably one of the best DNs in the league, if not the best DN in the league. How do you think a rookie would fare against a guy like Lane Johnson?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, Lane Johnson, when he's healthy, and I think he's fully healthy right now for the first time in a couple of years, he's the top tackle in the league. And you flip to the other side, if you try to put him up against Mailata is obviously less proven, but he's looked really good. And against speed rushers, that's what's going to give him more of a problem. He's got that power. He's still learning kind of the technique a little bit. And so if I'm the Cowboys, I'm going to try to pit him up against Mailata, and I'm going to try to speed rush him off the edge and just see, if I can finesse around him, because you're not going to run through him. But, finesse rushers, speed rushers are definitely going to have better luck against Mailata, I would think, than Lane Johnson.
Yeah. Have Wilson at that linebacker position, as you said, they have been playing poor, missing some tackles. I personally think we need to go out and get a big-time linebacker. Someone who's big, physical, that can bring a presence about his play. And I don't think we really got that yet. I think we got a bunch of fast guys that, are good in coverage. But when it comes to the run game and, really laying the smack on somebody, I still feel like we don't have that yet. And Wilson hasn't played his best 2 games, the last 2 games as well.
Yeah, and Wilson's snap counts dropped pretty significantly for week 2. I think he was only in on like 62% of the snaps. So the coaching staff is seeing what we're seeing when we watch, that he had a really poor week 1, and he's a total liability in the run game. He's more of a coverage guy. which
Mhm.
is kind of the direction you want to build a defense in the NFL. But you've got to at least be able to go take on a block and maybe shed that every once in a while. And he just doesn't do that well.
Yeah. And hey, Mitch, I got you on that wrench. I had some stuff going on in my chat, so I had to unmonetize everybody again. And I'll be giving them out one at a time. Don't worry about that guy. It's just one of those situations where, somebody was doing something funny from an earlier thing. And I don't know. I just had to, nip it at the bud for now. But I will be passing wrenches out. Can't do it right now on my phone, though, buddy. Um, Also, our safeties. Do you think McLeod's playing this game?
I don't know. So the thing with McLeod is once we got to 53-man roster,
Mm-hmm.
like them putting him on the 53-man means that they thought he was going to play in the first 5 or 6 weeks because they could have left him on PUP and he would have been ineligible to play the first 6 weeks. And so I would imagine they thought he's going to be back week 3, week 4, week 5, because if you get later than that, it would have made sense to leave him on PUP and you could have carried another guy on your roster. So
Right.
I don't know if he's going to play. I haven't seen an injury report from practice. Do you know if he's practiced at all this week?
I didn't see the injury report from practice, but I have seen clips of him practicing. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And he looked good. He didn't look like there was any kind of leg injury going on. What I'm saying? He was making cuts with the DBs out there, catching balls and stuff. So I'm waiting for him. I thought he could. I think that clip was even from last week. So I would thought he was going to even play last Sunday, and I didn't see him out there. So I imagine this week, if not this week, maybe next week for sure. But hopefully he can get back out there because Kayvon and Elps aren't doing too bad. How do you see those guys doing?
Yeah, I think he'll be a pretty big improvement over them. I mean, I don't think they've been a total liability,
Mm-hmm.
but that veteran presence back there, Marcus, to me, Marcus Epps is more of a special teams player than anything. And the fact that they had him over Kavon Wallace in week 1 kind of tells you about where Kavon Wallace is at,
Yeah.
which is a guy that I was really high on when they
Yeah.
drafted him. I was really excited about that pick. I thought he had the ability to play some of that sub linebacker slot. This is overused, but the Malcolm Jenkins type role. And obviously there's not another Malcolm Jenkins, but a guy that you could move around on your defense. And he just hasn't been that so far.
Mm-hmm.
I still hope he can be, but as long as McLeod retains his athleticism, he was kind of like just on the precipice of not being athletic enough to be a single high safety in the short scheme. Well, now we're moving into this split field safety scheme, so that athleticism is not as much required. And so, as long as he's able to function in those half field zones, I think he should help shore up the back end of the defense.
How do you like Harris?
I think Harris has been fine. People were pretty hyped about the Harris signing and the Wilson signing, and I tried to tell people all summer Eric Wilson's not that good. I didn't know a lot about Harris, and so I had to watch him a little bit. And through a couple games, I think he's been fine. I wish he would have caught that interception on Sunday. I don't know what it is about our defense. We just can't get turnovers ever.
Yeah.
Like
we almost had 2. Well, if you don't
Yeah.
count the fumbles that got called back, and we're shooting ourselves in the foot over there, man. How do you like our cornerback Steven Nelson and big play Slade? They got a challenge this week, especially. I definitely did hear though, Cooper is questionable due to his ribs. He had an injury in week 1 that they had to go reevaluate this week about from the last game. So not 100% Cooper, but big play Slade is definitely shut down Cooper in the past before. So I think that's a good matchup. And then Steven Nelson on CD Lamb, man. How do you think that's going to shape out?
Yeah, I've been more impressed with Nelson than I thought I would be. I thought he's played pretty well. All in all, it's the best secondary. Specifically, it's the best cornerback group we've had in several years, which is a low bar. But I like the group of Slay and Nelson outside, and you get Avonte Maddox in the slot, which is where he should have always been. A lot of people are down on Maddox because Maddox was terrible last year, but when you put a guy with dinosaur arms outside and ask him to play cornerback, you get what you get. That's like throwing me out there to play quarterback. Like It's not going to work out well. And so I'm excited that Avonte is in the slot, and I think he's going to do fine there. And so I feel optimistic about our corner group. And obviously, Slay's aging and Nelson's on a 1-year deal, but for the first time, it feels like, we've got that competent secondary that can really let our pass rush tee off.
Yeah, he almost had a pick too this Sunday too, Nelson. He's really close to getting one. And then you got the young guy Zach McPherson back there too. That's hopefully he's developing in a good rate. In the preseason you did get to see him. He did get torched a little bit, but I like the fact that no matter what, when they caught the ball, he was right there for the tackle. You know what I'm saying? So that's the first step at that cornerback position. I think you see growth there. And who knows? We're not really seeing him in practice right now, how much more he's developing. Were you high on us getting him in the first place?
I was disappointed we waited until the fourth round to go corner. As far as the player itself, I think he kind of profiles as a slot corner, which we at the time, that's about all we had was slot corners. I think he's got potential to kick outside. He's kind of a tweener there. I think his best role is probably in the slot, though. So I'm not sure if he can, take over Nelson's role next year. I'm going to have to wait and see on him. But I definitely want to see some more from him and just kind of see. I wasn't impressed with what I saw in the preseason. It wasn't as good as I had hoped for. But again, it's a rookie in their first action against NFL players. So I definitely want to see him some more as the year goes on.
Yes. And through 2 games, give me your kind of like a player on offense and a player on defense that you think have done the best so far during the first 2 games.
Okay, I'm gonna go boring and go line play on both sides because I'm a line guy. But Javon Hargrave on defense, he's been a monster through 2 games. He's outplayed Fletcher Cox through 2 games, and people want to say, Fletcher Cox has drawn the double teams. Javon Hargrave is the beneficiary of that, and that's probably true. But Aaron Donald draws the double teams, and he puts up numbers. And we haven't seen big numbers from Cox in a couple of years, and so I'm a little concerned here with Cox. But I've really liked what I've seen out of Hargrave.
That's what I've been saying, and people have been getting down on me. I'm like, I don't like comparing him to Donald. But at the same time, Donald gets double teamed too, and he still puts up the big numbers. He's, I always looked at it as Donald's a better pass rusher, Fletcher's a better run stopper. But at the same time, Fletcher's bigger than Donald, so he should be able to get through, not just put pressure on him, but get the sack too. You know what I'm saying? Once you hit that certain pay range, where you're making a 20 million plus range, you need to produce sacks at that, position. Donald does it. He stops to run, and he also gets triple and double team too, and he still puts up big numbers at sacks. So I don't understand why Fletcher doesn't do it. But yeah, all the Eagles fans, they get down on me about it. I feel like
I love Fletcher Cox. Yeah, I think Fletcher Cox is a good player, but I think he's a good player on an elite player's contract.
Yeah, so if you wanted to give him good player money, I always say if we wanted to give him like $12 to $15 million a year, then yeah, I'll say he's doing his job. You know what I'm saying? He's doing the best he can possibly do, and that's okay with me. But when you're giving him this elite money, I need to see some elite tackles and some sacks come out of there.
Right, absolutely.
Do you think we keep him next year?
I don't know. I think it kind of depends on how this season goes. I feel like, if we get close to the trade deadline and the Eagles are 3-6 or whatever, and, we're kind of out of that division race, Cowboys are sitting there at 7-2, 6-3, whatever. If you get into a situation where it makes sense to sell at the deadline, I think he's probably your number one guy you look at moving. Just for whatever reason, at the trade deadline, players are always worth more than they are in the offseason.
Yeah,
everybody thinks they're a contender.
For the position.
Yeah, everybody thinks they're a contender, and so if you're gonna get rid of Cox, the time to do it is there. It's in season. It's near the trade deadline, but you don't do that if you're in a division race. And so I kind of feel like if the Eagles are down and out by the trade deadline, you might see Cox move. But I think if he's here post deadline, I think he's probably here next year too.
Okay, give me 2 other players that you think that could possibly be trade deadline trade baits.
I think Zach Ertz makes sense. Or, Eagles fans don't want to hear this, or potentially Dallas Goedert. We've heard they're far away on the contract negotiations. He expected more than the Eagles offered. He expected to have a deal done already. So it's very possible the Eagles will decide, hey, we're not going to hitch our wagon to either of these guys. So I think you could see either one of those guys, maybe, potentially. And then, outside of that, I don't know that there's any big names. I see somebody in the chat said move Barnett. I don't think Barnett would command anything near the trade. I'm certainly for it. I just don't think you would get much for him. But those are kind of the guys I'd probably look at as the biggest potential to move.
You think BG's played his last game in green?
I hope not. I love Brandon Graham.
Mm-hmm.
I got the same sinking feeling in my gut that I got when Darren Sproles tore his ACL and broke his ankle on that same play in like 2017, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was 16. I can't remember, because Darren Sproles, like, I loved him in college. I loved him in the NFL, and then he came to the Eagles, and it just
Yeah.
like made my year. And when he had that injury, I was like, he's probably done. And then he played like 3 more years. So I don't know. Brandon Graham's one of those guys that, he doesn't rely on speed to win. He relies on power, and so you can come back from that injury and you might lose some athleticism, but you don't have to lose that power. I've always said he's a guy that's going to age well, and he's a guy that should have some tread left on the tires because he was used pretty lightly early in his career. But you just never know how a guy's going to come back from an injury like an Achilles. So I hope not. I would guess, he's playing week 1 next year. I'd be devastated if he's not.
What about Brooks?
I think Brooks could be done. Let me rephrase. I think Brooks will come back from this injury this year. I don't expect him to stay healthy for the whole season. He's at a point, like, certain guys are just kind of snake bitten when it comes to injuries, and I feel like Brooks is that guy. And I love Brooks. I love, the statement he made about mental health a couple of years ago when he missed the game, had an anxiety attack and missed the game, and he didn't hide from it. He brought that to light, and I loved that. I loved, when athletes will open up on stuff like that. So I love Brooks. I think he could be a guy that you move on from this year. I think in all likelihood, they drafted Landon Dickerson planning for him to be either Jason Kelce or Brandon Brooks' replacement. And we know, Kelsey's flirted with retirement for a few years here, so it's hard to tell with Brooks.
Is there any veterans out there you consider picking up? Maybe like a guy like Larry Fitzgerald to help out these young receivers?
I wouldn't rule that out. I don't want him to take really snaps away from the wide receivers so much, because I want the young guys on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much you can learn from some of those veterans, especially a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, who maybe doesn't have it athletically anymore. But, you have the Josh McCown effect, where Josh McCown was in the locker room, and I mean, he was helping out the quarterbacks, he was helping out the receivers, and he had a very positive impact even while he wasn't playing. I think you could have that with it, bringing in a vet with the right mentality. But if we're talking to bring in, Fitzgerald to be a wide receiver too, I don't like that. But if we're talking to bring him in to be a mentor, get him a few snaps, I'd certainly be on board.
Or like it may be a 3 or a 4. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
4. Probably, just a guy that's rotating, maybe on third downs, go in there, you have a sure-handed guy to kind of get that first down for you. You know what I'm saying? Like one of those type of leaders on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have no problem with that at all.
Do you see any other positions that you think the Eagles might need to upgrade now or by the trading deadline?
Well, I got to plug this in. It's about to die. I forgot to plug it in before we started, and I usually do that. But I have, I think there's a lot of positions, honestly, that the Eagles need to upgrade. But I question, if they're going to do that in season, or if they're just going to, they seem to have embraced the youth movement this year, which I'm on board with. We've realized, hey, you can't just keep stacking up vet after vet after vet after vet. Eventually, you've got to get young, and so they're looking at this as a retooling year. Like, we're not phoning it in, we're not tanking, but we realize we're not the best football team, and so we're going to see what we got. We're going to evaluate our young guys and see what goes. And so, we certainly need help at linebacker, but I don't know that I want to go, sign some vets to fill that in versus, play Alex Singleton and see what he is. Play
Wilson.
Yeah, not so much Wilson. I don't think
Taylor
he's
had a good
year
game,
anyways.
dude.
But yeah,
Taylor. But did he get hurt again? Was that what it was?
I hadn't heard that, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought someone said that on an earlier podcast. I wasn't sure about it either. I didn't see him get hurt, but yeah, when he got in there, he was making some plays. So I'm excited to see more of him.
Yeah. I mean, second or day 2 draft pick, 3rd rounder last year, and we didn't see much from him last year. So, and we always knew he was a project, but I'd like to see him get involved as well.
Yes, we are the best, my guy. Going into this game, give me some big concerns that you have for the Cowboys.
So I think biggest concern is going to be how will our secondary hold up against their passing attack. Dak Prescott is the best quarterback they will have faced so far this year. It's the best receivers they'll have faced this year. And, it's the best running game they'll have faced too. I know the 49ers did work running against us, but that was with their third and fourth string running backs because they've got guys hurt. The Cowboys are bringing Zeke and Pollard in. And so top to bottom, it's the best offense they'll have played so far. The defense has acquitted itself well. It's a big test. And so I want to see that play out. I want to see what Gannon is able to scheme up against them. And then on the offensive side of the ball, it just all comes down to Jalen Hurts. I want to see, week number 3 of Hurts. Week 1 was really good. Week 2 wasn't so good. I want to see how we bounce back from that in a primetime in a huge divisional game. I mean, this is a big game because, you win this game,
Huge game.
you're up in the division. You've got a tiebreaker over the Cowboys. You lose this game. You're 1-2 and you're facing down playing Kansas City and Tampa Bay 2 of the next 3 weeks. And those are going to be very, very difficult games to win.
Yeah.
Not to mention you're playing Kansas City coming off of a short week because of Monday Night Football. So it's a big game. It's not a must-win game, but it's
a must-win game.
Yeah, it's
Cowboy fans. It's a must-win the way they're talking this week, man. I'm looking for these guys to get that W. I didn't hear anything about Devontae Smith being hurt, so I can't say it's a lie, but as far as what I know, he's healthy. He's gonna be playing the game pretty well.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Smith being held out of practice or anything like that.
Who do you think is going to have the biggest game this game?
You
want from
on both sides of the ball?
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be a good week for Quez Watkins again, which he's hard to predict because he either has nothing or he's got 100 yards on 2 plays. But I think this is a Cowboys defense you can get behind, and I think they're certainly going to take those shots downfield. Defensively, I'm going to keep riding Javon Hargrave until he has a bad game. I think you can generate interior pressure. Now I think Brandon Graham being gone is going to allow the Cowboys to pinch their offensive line a lot more. They're not going to have to, you're not going to worry as much about Derek Barnett coming off the edge as you would Brandon Graham. And so it allows you to scheme some things up different protection wise. But those are my big guys I'm pulling for this week. I want to see Quez have a big game, and I want to see Javon Hargrave continue to dominate.
Who else been doing good on that defensive line that, hasn't really been getting the praise for it? It's Rashawn Ridgway.
Yeah.
Having 2 good games. You've seen a lot of them the last 2 games, both the first 2 games. You've seen him in there making some really big plays. I've been really shocked because I thought there was going to be more Milton Williams playing than the tackle position, and Ridgway has been showing that he can show up and show out too.
Yeah, and I think they've actually, when they have used Milton Williams, because he's played, I think they've used him more kind of as an edge than they have as a defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
They've used him more as that 3-4 defensive end type of role when he's been out there.
Yeah, shout out to the 15 in the chat. Please hit that like and subscribe to both of our channels. The Painted Lines over here with Half and Half and Bird Game Nation Sports Talk, Bird Game 31. Both links are in the description. Also, our all-new Eagles network has dropped, Bird Game Nation Sports Media. That link is also inside the description. So make sure you go up there and give it a sub, my guys. Keep the content moving. Hit that like. It don't cost a thing, and it helps the content get out as well. So, yeah, man. Milton Williams, I think, is good. Like I said earlier, he's going to be with – I think they're going to probably play him on that inside with mix him in with Kerrigan over there. Because Sweat and Barnett, even though we don't like Barnett that much, if he stops the penalties, because he doesn't play that bad. That's what sucks with Barnett. He's not a terrible player, but he's not nothing great. And I think everybody just expects him to be great. So that's the reason why we hate on him so much. Is just he's not great, but he's not terrible either. We could have worse end out there. And obviously, I thought Sweat was outplaying him, but from the rotation and the snaps, it's showing that the coaches think otherwise.
Yeah, and it could have been a game flow thing too. Barnett is better in the run game than Sweat is, and the 49ers kind of went run heavy there. So maybe that's part of the reason for it too. I just kind of thought of that as you were talking there, but that could be an explanation for what they did there as well.
Yeah, Gainwell. How you like Gainwell?
I really like what I've seen from him. He wasn't efficient on the ground week 2. Week 1, I thought he was good. I really like they came out empty backfield with Gainwell in the slot a few times week 1, which I liked. And he had a couple good blitz pickups, which is kind of a question mark for him if he could pick up blitzes. So I like him. I think he's a good complement to Miles Sanders.
Are you one of the ones that believe that eventually he will be taking over that starting role over Miles Sanders?
Not this year, but I don't expect the Eagles to sign Miles Sanders to a second contract. I mean, you look back, the Eagles aren't a team that highly values the running back position. You know, we traded Shady, which that was a Chip Kelly thing, but
yeah,
you know, for years after that, we didn't have a solid running back, and we wanted one, and we wanted one, and we never took one. And so we finally take the second rounder, but the Eagles are a very analytics-driven organization, and the analytics say you don't give a running back that second contract. So unless, you know, Sanders is willing to, you know, play below market value, I think, you know, he'll be here through the end of next year and he'll be the starter, but I don't think they'll re-sign him to a long-term deal personally.
Even with 2 big years. So say Sanders gets about 1,800 yards this year and 1,800 yards next year. You think they were giving him that contract?
No, I definitely don't think they'd pay a guy what he would want if he had back-to-back 1,800 yard seasons. I mean, you get into that point, like you should do to him what the Cowboys should have done to Ezekiel Elliott, and that's use him and then let him go. You know, wear all that tread off the tires, then let somebody else go overpay for him in free agency. So, especially too when. I mean, you look at what the Ravens are doing right now with, you know, their top 3 running backs out, and you bring in, you know, running back 4, and he's one of the most efficient running backs in the league. Well, why is that? Well, it's because Lamar Jackson. Yeah, now, I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is Lamar Jackson level as a passer, but he is as a runner.
And that running he's a better passer than Lamar Jackson.
In some ways,
I think Lamar probably is a little bit better runner because he's a little bit faster and more athletic, but I think Jalen got the arm thing. You know, I never seen Lamar Jackson throw for 350 yards and still rush for 100.
Yeah, and I think it's a philosophical difference too in how they want to win games. But when you have that quarterback that you can use in the power running game, like the Ravens do with Lamar, like the Eagles do with Jalen Hurts, it really takes a lot of pressure off your running back. It takes away some of their touches, and you see their efficiency go up. And so, you know, you can make do with lesser running backs when your quarterback is such a threat to run. And that's what the Ravens are showing now, and I think the Eagles are going to see that as well.
You know, get rid of. Oh, that'd be so sad. I really like Miles Sanders. I just feel like his whole career he hasn't really got a chance to show his elite, like especially last year. He wasn't getting the ball enough last year. I think last year could have been his breakout year where he came out and showed everybody that he can be a top flight runner. And you know, we just didn't run the ball that much. You know what I'm saying? Like we just didn't. We were throwing the ball 60 times a game. You know, trying to use the pass to set up the pass, and that never works out there. So, you know, I really feel like this year Miles Sanders can get on the right track. I'm waiting for him to get that 100-yard game. He done, you know, all-purpose 100 yards, yes, but I want to see you over 100 yards. I think Dallas too got a defense that, you know, given the right situation, we can get that this week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, week 1 we came out and we're super pass heavy at the beginning, and of course once we took the big lead, we went super run heavy. Week 2, we came out and we flipped that script. We were run heavy from the start. And so I don't know if that's Sirianni trying to find his sweet spot as a play caller, or if he's just going to vary it by matchups weeks to week. And some weeks will be super pass heavy. Some weeks we'll run it a lot. So I wouldn't want to have Miles Sanders on my fantasy team because I just have no idea.
I have no
idea. Are we going to – is Gainwell getting 10 carries this week? Are we even going to run the ball? I don't know. And so – which is great because it's hard for defenses to game plan against, but it sure make life difficult for fantasy owners.
Yeah, it's killing me having him as my fantasy running back, man. Man, look, Derrick Henry too until last week he tore it up. And he wasn't even tearing up in the beginning of the game. I was like, what are you doing, Derrick? You know, I turned around like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, those are 2 big things, Richie. Good job you bringing that up. I think the Eagles really need to work on. You know, we're not getting turnovers, and we got to stop the penalties. Those are 2 huge things I think it's costing us early in this season.
Yeah, if you look back, I went and looked it up the other day. The last 3 years, the Eagles have ranked 28, 23rd, and 23rd in forced turnovers. Wow. And through 2 weeks, they're one of only 2 NFL teams that still don't have one. And I mean, turnovers are a lot of luck. It's being in the right place at the right time. But it's not all luck if you're consistently that bad at it. And so I don't know what it is. I mean, the defense is doing a good job of stopping drives, but there's a big difference in a 3-and-out with a 50-yard punt at the end of it and an interception that gets you the ball in plus territory. So I'd love to see us generate some of those turnovers, but you can't hang your hat on it. You can't base your whole defense around it, but it'd be nice to get some sometimes.
And a lot of our turnovers too is they're getting penalties on them. Like that Slay interception. You know what I'm saying? Like we're getting penalties on these turnovers. That's keeping us from getting them, man. Do you think that sloppy play was not seeing so much starters in the preseason, or you just think, like you said, just stats, and that's just the way it's been going for us?
Yeah, I think preseason certainly plays a part in it. I also think early in the year the NFL calls things a lot tighter, and then they kind of loosen it up. Yeah, I'm a teacher. I do the same thing in my classroom. First few weeks of school, you hammer down on kids, and then you can loosen up once you kind of establish that. I think the NFL does the same thing too. But so I think it's twofold thing there. I expect the Eagles to clean it up as we go down the stretch here, but they are one of the more penalized teams so far. So it can't just be the NFL calling things more closely, because every other team would be doing it too. So.
Yeah, man, I definitely need to stop. I don't think we can do it against Dallas and pull out that W. Do you think we win this game?
On the road in Dallas, we've got a rookie making his first start, and Landon Dickerson at a guard position. We're trying to replace Brandon Graham. In those divisional games that are so close like that, I tend to go with the home team, and unfortunately, this one's at Jerry's World. So I'm going to be pulling for the Eagles. I honestly think it's a coin flip.
Well, lately we won there, and then they won in our home, and we won.
That is true. I think, has it been 2 or 3 years in a row that we've done that?
Yeah.
One in Dallas, lost at home, which is just bizarre.
Yeah.
But so maybe I should just flip it. Maybe we have home field advantage in Dallas somehow. It doesn't make any sense, but maybe that's our field. We like playing there.
Who wouldn't like playing in Jerry's World, and giving them a big fat L in his house? I love it.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I think it's a coin flip. I think it could go either way. But in those games that can go either way, I kind of go down to what I know and who I trust. And right now, I trust Kellen Moore as a play caller than Nick Sirianni. And I trust Dak Prescott more week to week than I do Jalen Hurts. And so I give a slight edge to the Cowboys, but I see a lot of pathways where the Eagles can go in and they can come out with a W.
Nice. So how do you see the division shaping now? Give me your 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Well, so I think, the Cowboy, I tweeted this out during Thursday Night Football. I said, congratulations to the Eagles or the Cowboys being the NFC East champion, because the Giants and the football team are just awful. Yeah. Going into the year, I thought the football team, I called their defense elite, and I don't know where that defense has been. It's looked anything but. And the Giants are just, they're a trash heap. They're a mess. They've got poor coaching. They've got no quarterback. They've got no offensive line. So it's a 2-team race for me between Dallas and the Cowboys, between Dallas and the Eagles.
The Cowgirls, baby. Yeah.
I was trying to say between Dallas and the Eagles, and I said between Dallas and the Cowboys. I don't know what I was talking about, but I think it's a two-way race there. And I think it ultimately comes down to, how do Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts settle in? And it's going to come down to injuries too. Who's able to avoid those injuries? Nobody ever wants to talk about that, but so much of being able to make those runs is just that injury luck, because the Eagles are not a deep team. You can't draft as poorly as you have and, be able to sustain a lot of big injuries. And so, we've seen Brooks go down already. Hopefully he's back soon. We've seen Graham go down. The Cowboys have seen DeMarcus Lawrence come down. It just kind of becomes that war of attrition. Who can stay healthy?
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely see the little Giants last in division. Danny Stamps ain't winning no football games this year as long as he's a starting quarterback, And then
long live Dave Gettleman.
Right? And then the watch football team, like you said, I never even thought they were elite in terms of the defensive line, man. Like when you seen what we did with our B team last year, we had 3rd and 4th team linemen, and we were handling them pretty good that week 17 before we handed them the division by sitting Jalen Hurts the second half. Jalen had 2 touchdowns at the end of the half, and we were making our comeback. You know what I'm saying? I think if he would have stayed in that game, we probably win that game, and they're not division champions. But that being said, the biggest point is they had Kerrigan. We got Kerrigan now. You know what I'm saying? So that's a take a notch off their belt on that defensive line. Even because Carrick had 5.5 sacks for their defensive line last year. And that's 5.5 sacks off. Chase only had what 7.5 sacks. So you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And Carrick did that playing 30% of the time. So I seen when our second and third team linemen was able to hold up against that front four. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't really get that much pressure on us. I knew then that they can't be elite. Like you can't be elite if you can't beat backup players. That shouldn't even be in the game right now. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't. I see. Like I said, Washington last. I mean, New York last, Washington, then Dallas, then us. I think this is our year that we win the division title again. We always go from last to first. So I think
Yeah.
it's going to keep that tradition going this year.
Yeah. I just need
Love
I
CJ.
need a I need a 6-10 year this year with the first year head coach and quarterback so we can go win a Super Bowl next year. We can follow that same arc, right?
That was my next question, and you already answered it with that answer, man. 6-10. You think 6-10 would be good year?
Oh, no, no, no. I was just alluding to Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz's first year. We went 6-10, and then we won the Super Bowl the next year. So
Yeah.
hey, if we of course 6-10 is not an option because there's a 17 game season, but if we hit that middling season this year with the first year head coach and win the Super Bowl next year, I'd be thrilled. But overall expectations for this year, I think you can't be as good in the trenches as the Eagles are and have a quarterback that is mobile as the Eagles are and win 4 or 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a high floor just based on your dominance in the trenches and Jalen Hurts' rushing ability.
You
Uh,
think your floor wins and your ceiling wins?
I think your floor is somewhere around 7 wins. I think your ceiling is probably somewhere around 11-ish wins.
Okay.
I think, and if everything came together, this is one of the most high variance teams, and I feel like we've learned a little bit through 2 weeks. But with all the new play callers and faces coming into the year, I was like, no idea. But I think the Eagles can get in that 9-8, 10-7. That 17th game is messing with decades of calculating records in my head on the fly. But I think you can get in that 9-8, 10-7 type of range, and that's in range of winning the division. And so I think the Eagles get that 9 to 10 win range, and I think that it probably comes down to week 16, 17 if they're able to make that final push and win the division.
Yeah, my floor I think is 10 wins, 7 losses. Because with our schedule, and I don't really see Jalen Hurts losing that many games for football. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a talented enough quarterback to put them W's up, and I think seven's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you put the last year 16 games, and I'll probably be saying you know um 11-5 or whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? Or even like 9-7 there. But 7 games, wait, 9-6. So 7 games is a lot of games to lose in the NFL. We don't at this first 6 games are our toughest part of the schedule, and if we can come through here, 300, I mean 500, 3-3, or even 4-2, somewhere in that range, then I think we'll be looking good into getting into the double digit wins. I think double digits is what everybody should expect from our team this year with the talent that we still do have on the roster. It's all unproven talent, but as the season progresses, these guys will get more playing time, more reps, and they should be growing at a good pace to we can catch a hot streak towards the end of the season. Especially when we have those big stretch of division games, to end off the year. So I look for us like floor, like I said, 10-7, ceiling 12-5. You know what I'm saying? I think we can pull out those 12 games, and then, given some teams that we should lose to, I think everybody knew San Francisco was a borderline game. Those guys are in the toughest division of football. You know what I'm saying? They are the perennial playoff team. You know what I'm saying? They always are in the hunt for the playoff spot, and they're always winning double digits. So, that was, I think, on everybody's list of being a game we could win. We should win, but it wouldn't be that big of a surprise losing. I think the other 2 games, you can look at the Kansas City, the Tampa Bay. Those are games that we could win. Because I don't think there's anybody on our schedule we can't beat. Because any given Sunday it can happen. But if we lost, you're not as disappointed about it. You know what I'm saying? You're like, it was Tampa Bay and Tom Brady and those guys. It was Andy Reid again. With his Pat Mahomes and those guys. But I really hope this year we beat Kansas City because we've been taking that L from Andy since he left. And I am so done with Andy giving us the L, man. This has to be the year we go in there. We win Big Red over there. Just say we beat him. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, Andy. We want you won the Super Bowl first, but then we won it. Didn't they win before us, or did we win before them?
We won first.
Yeah, we won the Super Bowl first, but you still beat us. So now, I want to, you beat us for all these years. I want to be able to return the favor and go win. Because the Kansas City game's in Kansas City, right?
Yeah, no, it's at the link.
Oh yeah, especially at
I
home.
wish I wish it was in Kansas City. So I've never been to an Eagles game.
Yeah, well,
I live in Oklahoma, so I've never been. I'm a long ways away, but the next time the Eagles play in Kansas City, I want to go because that's not. I mean, it's like 6 hours, but it's not. It's driving distance. And so I knew the Chiefs were on the schedule this year, and I was hoping it was going to be at Kansas City. And then when the schedule came out and it was at the link, I was, man,
how far?
I don't want to go to a Dallas game. I don't want to go watch them play at Dallas.
Why not? That would be the best stadium to go to watch him play.
I don't want to. I'd go watch him play at Houston or watch him play at Kansas City, but I don't want to go at Dallas. That just feel like that could be a miserable experience. But yeah, you were talking about the schedule. I mean, 4 of our next 5 games are Dallas, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, and the Raiders, who are playing really well right now. So that's a tough stretch.
Yeah.
And if you can make it through that, if you can pick up a few wins, if you can hover around 500, then you get down, week 12, it gets fun. You go Giants, Jets, bye. Yeah. Washington, Giants, Washington. Like that should be 5 games.
Don't we got the Panthers somewhere in there too?
Yeah. Panthers are between the Chiefs and the Bucks. They're week 5. So that's a winnable game. That's a game you need to win. You need to beat the Cowboys. You need to beat the Panthers. And then hopefully you can get 1 of 3 against the Chiefs, Bucks, and Raiders. And you'd feel pretty good about where you're at as a team there.
And we got the Chargers too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wait, that's another tough one there, man.
Yeah, although they've looked kind of shaky so far. Surprisingly, Herbert's been a little shaky, but hopefully he stays that way when we play him.
Yeah, when I lived in California, I went to all, whenever they played the Raiders, when they were still there, or San Francisco 49ers when they were there. So I've been about 5 Eagle games in my life, and I never been to one in Philly. So that's my goal. Next year, I'm in Alabama right now. I've been here for the last couple of years. And next year, I'm planning on moving to Philadelphia so I can go to some home games, do my content out there. I think to be in the city and to embrace the city and see all the, Broad Street. I'm on a show called Birds of Broad Street, and I haven't even been to Broad Street before. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be able to, even if I don't go to the game, to go tailgate, you know what I'm saying? And, like, go to the local bars and interview people at the bar. Just the whole experience of Philadelphia. Whether I stay there longer than a year, I don't know. I'm just going to rent my house out for a year and see what happens, because that cold there in Philadelphia is ridiculous. It's super cold. Yeah. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle it after a year. So we're going to see how that experience will go. But that is my bucket list goal. Let's go ahead and get out there and live in Philly to be able to experience. If I have a chance, go to all the home games all year long. Could that be an amazing thing to do? Like when they came out to Oakland, I remember I was there the game that Nick Foles threw those 7 touchdowns, man. And I was sitting there next to Nick Foles' parents. And it was just an awesome game. And that whole little section was just full of Eagles, where from how loud they were, it felt like you were at an Eagles home game. But I knew I wasn't in Philadelphia. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to go ahead and experience it. Just hearing the chant inside 60,000 fans out there screaming, E-A-G, saying fly. That'd just be amazing. That'd be my bucket list thing there. But yeah, we need to get you to an Eagles game, my guy. Like,
absolutely.
There's nothing like seeing them. Like, I love watching them. Like, I got an 80-inch 8K TV here. You know what I'm saying? I love the picture. I love watching at home, but the experience to be there with the fans and, and like rooting your team with your jersey on and, just feeling it, man. I even went to New York once, man, in that time. The Eagles, I think it was the Andy Reid last game. So I went there for New Year's and watched that game, man. And that was a horrible experience, man. It was 14 degrees below negative 14 degrees, but wind chill. And I swear everybody was inside of the freaking, the gift shop because it was so cold out there. And to top it all off, we lost that game, man. That was a horrible game. It was the last game, Andy. So Andy Reid's getting fired. And I think they did it like right after the game, a little bit after the game. So as I'm driving back, I'm hearing them say they fired my coach and we lost. That was a very bad experience for the Eagles game. But that was the worst one out of all of them. Other than that, they were all pretty cool. So, but hey, man. Hey, shout out to the 20 Inside the Chat. Please like and subscribe to both of our channels. They are in the link, and if you have any kind of, birthdays coming up, anniversaries coming up, anything like that, please go get them a La Terrain watch. La Terrain is the sponsor of the Bird Game Nation Sports Talk Show. And if you use code word BirdGame31, you definitely will get 10% off. So go help my guys out at La Terrain and go get your girl, your guy, if you're a girl in here, or your mom and dad or something like that, a nice watch for the holidays. Yeah, before I get you off here, I like all my first time guests, to do an all time Eagles team. You know, um, this is a team. Don't worry about. I'm not telling you the all time stats. Who has the all time stat on the Eagles. I'm talking about this is your personal team. All the years you've been watching Philadelphia. Who's your favorite players at each of these positions? So, we can start out with the quarterback. Give me a quarterback and who you have backing them up.
All right, so I didn't necessarily go with the best players necessarily, but I went with the guys that were my favorites.
Mhm.
Um, and now I'm losing my list. I had it. Where'd it go? Anyway, but for my quarterback, I picked Donovan McNabb. He was the quarterback. Oh, here it is. He was the quarterback for the Eagles when I became a fan. You always remember your first one, and so I loved watching. I loved watching McNabb play. I know he's got a little bit of a mixed legacy now, going to Washington later on, and some of the comments he's made since. But Donovan McNabb, the player, I loved watching him every Sunday. So that was my quarterback.
Okay, and who'll be backing them up?
I didn't go that far. Backing him up, I'd have to go with Nick Foles. You can't leave if I'm going too deep. I can't leave off the first guy that ever brought a Super Bowl to Philadelphia. So, he's got a mixed legacy too. He's not a starting caliber quarterback anymore, but man, I've never seen something so magical as how he heated up and played down that 2-game stretch.
You got to give Foles for being the best all-time backup. You know what I'm saying? He's done his thing at the backup. He had a good year too as a starter for us. That 29-2 year, that was a great year for any quarterback. So you got definitely. It's never a wrong thing to get have Foles on your list. Give me 3 running backs.
So Brian Westbrook's my guy. He's the reason. He's one of 2 guys that were the reason I became an Eagles fan. So in Oklahoma, no Oklahoma team as a kid, I just kind of liked players, and I liked Jerry Rice and Steve Young. So I was a 49ers fan, and then when they moved on, I kind of moved on to different teams, and I just kind of did that for a while. And Brian Westbrook is one of the reasons I became an Eagles fan.
Mm-hmm.
And when he left, I guess I just hit that stage where I stuck with a team. And so Westbrook was my guy. He's my number one. Then LaShawn McCoy, I loved watching LaShawn McCoy on the field. Just, man, he was so good. I know he didn't jive with that Chip Kelly offense so well. Chip didn't like him, but I just loved watching him dance around, make guys miss. So Brian Westbrook and LaShawn McCoy, definitely my 1-2 there.
Okay. Do you have a third guy? Because we try to get 3 of them out.
Okay. Let's see. Running back 3. Let's go with. I'm going to go with LeGarrette Blount. I mean,
yes.
Watching him, the
I
other
love
2 guys.
LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, the other 2 guys are the receiving backs, but LeGarrette Blount was that downhill runner. I know we just had him for 2017, right? Just the 1 year, but
yeah, I was so mad we didn't re-sign him.
Yeah, man, putting him in, just watching him salt games away, pounding away, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, well, give me your 2 tight ends.
2 tight ends. So Brent Selleck was my number 1. And again, that's kind of in that vein, not going with necessarily the best players, but my favorites. I loved Brent Selleck. He was a guy that never put up big stats. He was just the epitome of a team guy to me. And so I loved watching Brent Selleck play. And then, how can you go with anybody but Zach Ertz as your other one? He's a career Eagle. I know there's been some weird stuff over the summer. He probably not going to be here next year, but to me, he's always an Eagle. And I'll always love Zach Ertz.
Yeah, it'd be weird to seeing him next year, probably in a different jersey. You know what I'm saying? Unless he goes to the coast, because that was kind of predicted. I feel like that's where he's probably going to go if he hit that free agent mark. Carson Wentz is still there. Give me 4 receivers.
Yeah, I see it. New school. Yeah. So I'm 31. I became an Eagles fan in my teens. So I know the Reggie Whites and, these old school guys, but I didn't grow up watching them play. So none of those guys are probably going to make it on my list.
Yeah, Richie. This is his list. Leave him alone. Let him make I love you, Rich.
So receivers, Jason Avant, same vein as
Yes.
Brent Selleck. Not the most talented player, but the guy didn't drop passes. One of the hardest workers on the team.
Let's
He was a
go.
guy, when I was an athlete, high school stuff like that. Avant's a guy that I looked up to. Guy that always outworked everybody else. Jeremy Macklin. I have ties to. I'm in Big 12 country. He played at Missouri, so I watched him play a lot back when Missouri was in the Big 12. Macklin was a great Eagle, the last Eagle that had 1,000-yard receiving season.
Exactly.
Deshaun Jackson, I was devastated when Chip Kelly cut Deshaun Jackson. I wanted Kelly fired on the spot.
Right.
Just absurd. But I love Deshaun Jackson. I'm glad we don't have him anymore because he only plays one game a year now.
That one game, 200 yards, my guy.
Yeah, but
one game.
Nothing will ever beat watching Deshaun Jackson just roast the Cowboys. That I always remember that. I think it was a Michael Vick deep ball to Deshaun Jackson and his little dance going into the end zone.
Jalen got one too last year, remember?
Yeah.
We didn't beat him, but he had a lot of yards in that game.
And then, if I remember correctly, didn't Deshaun get hurt on that play? He pulled a hamstring, and it ended up being like the last game. That was like his last snap of the year, I think, if I remember, which is just a poetic ending. He gets the long touchdown, and then he gets hurt on the play.
Right.
But, yeah. And then, this is way too new of a guy to mention, but Devonta Smith. I mean, I'm pumped to watch this guy develop. I think he is the best talent that the Eagles have put on the field at wide receiver in the last 6 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really excited to just see what he's able to do and see if he and Hurts have that connection.
Yeah, man.
That chemistry from Alabama and can really just take off this year.
Yeah. I hope he doesn't get too reliant on him. I definitely want to see the connection grow, but I don't want Jalen, like I've seen a couple of times when he was double cover, Jalen still trying to force it in there. You know what I'm saying? I think we have enough talent at our skill positions to not have to force anything in one direction. And then if you spread it out, that'll keep the pressure off of Devontae Smith, where he will get open a lot more because he won't be double coverage because everybody have to worry about the rest of the defense, though. Let's go with offensive line. This is one you don't have to do depth, just one solid offensive line there.
All right, so my offensive tackles, I'll go Lane Johnson. He's an OU guy. I'm an OU fan, and I mean he's just been phenomenal. And Jason Peters, Peters tainted his legacy for me a little bit last year with the holdout for more money thing, but
he got it.
Yeah, I won't discount a guy's whole career for that. So at offensive guards, I'm going to go Evan Mathis and Brandon Brooks. And then center, I mean, there's no other answer for center except Jason Kelce. He's the king. Long live Jason Kelce.
Kelce, give me your defensive line.
All right, so defensive line. I went Chris Long at one of the defensive ends. I love Chris Long.
I think that's a first. That's a good one. I like it.
Yeah, I love Chris Long. I love his pressers. I love listening to his podcast. I mean, he's just a guy that real down to earth, fun to listen to. And Brandon Graham is my other defensive end. Graham, he's an Eagle, and I'll never forget after the Super Bowl year, I think he was on an expiring deal. No, it was the next year. He thought he was done. And I remember the stuff coming out about how he like gave a hug to every reporter on the Walker cleanout day because he thought he was done, and he was talking to them all. I mean, I just respect that so much. So those would be my defensive ends. Defensive tackle, I'm going to go with obviously Fletcher Cox. We've talked about him. We've talked about how he's probably not the player that he used to be, and that's okay. He's still a really good player. And then I really struggled coming up with a second defensive tackle that wasn't just super recent. So I went ahead and just went with Javon Hargrave because I've been riding Javon Hargrave late last year into this year, and I'm just going to continue to roll with him. I've loved watching Javon Hargrave, so I'm going to roll with him.
Yeah, man. Hey, it still works. Hargrave's having a great season. So if he continues this, he probably will be having one of the best defensive tackle years for anybody that have played for the Eagles. So continue up your pace. And Hargrave, I think that's the first time you've been on the list. Welcome to the list, my guy. Give me 3 linebackers.
The linebackers, I went Jordan Hicks for one of my linebackers. Maybe I'm a little biased towards him because he came out in the first draft. I was really starting to get into the scouting process, and he's a guy that I was all in on. Loved him as an Eagle. I wish he could have stayed healthy, and I wish he could have stayed with us because, I mean, his health was the biggest thing. So then I went Connor Barwin.
Connor.
Again, he's following my theme of he's not necessarily the best player that the Eagles have ever had, but I just loved watching him. He's a guy that I love to root for. And then D'Amico Ryans, I love D'Amico Ryans. He was a really solid player, good playmaker, good run defender, just kind of an all-around solid thumper at linebacker.
I love Ryan too, but I'm surprised you didn't put Trotter on the board.
I thought about it, yeah.
But it's your team, my guy. Give me 3 cornerbacks.
All right, so top cornerback is going to be Asante Samuel.
Yeah.
I really wanted Asante Samuel Jr. in the draft, too. I might as well say.
Huge fan of him.
Yeah. Troy Vincent, and then I'm going to go with Jalen Mills, which is surprising because I spent a lot of time criticizing Jalen Mills. Spent a lot of time criticizing Mills when he was with the Eagles, but the guy's a 7th-round pick. And he came in and he was a multi-year starter on a Super Bowl team. And you just don't see 7th-rounders stick in the league that long. And I respect that. I respect his swag. Don't think he's the best player, but I didn't always love watching him, but I respect him so much for what he was able to pull off. And, he's gone now. Obviously, he went to the Dirty Patriots, but I still have to just feel like, hey, man, he turned his hair green for us, and it's still green. Maybe he's like a sleeper agent for the Patriots.
Hopefully so over there. And your safeties, give me 2, give me 3 of them because I always do 2, but I always do 3 because I used to start out with 2, but everybody picks the same 2 to start it out. So I moved it up to 3. So give me 3 safeties.
Okay, so Dawkins, obviously. I love Dawkins. Dawkins is the other guy that's the reason I became an Eagles fan. So it was Dawkins and Westbrook, the 2 Bryans. It ripped my heart out when he went to Denver, and he was so good when he went there. I was so mad. But then obviously Malcolm Jenkins, everything he stood for off the field to everything he did on the field, I respect him so very much. And then, if I'm going to go a third safety, I guess I'll probably go with Rodney McLeod. I'm more of that new school guy. I think McLeod gets a lot of flack from people. I think McLeod's done pretty well given his athleticism and what he's asked to do. And I'm really excited to see him in a different scheme once he's able to come back healthy. I think he could really thrive.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking for it. I'm hoping he comes out this week. You know what I'm saying? And Richie, it's my show, so I can change it up when I want to. Like that. Hey, who would be your defensive coordinator coaching this team?
Ooh, defensive coordinator coaching this team. I didn't think about coordinators. Are you going to ask me to do special teams next too?
And well, I imagine your kicker should be Akers. Most people pick Akers, and then your punter. It's up in the air, whoever the punter is, whoever you want to go with, Johnston, Jones, Lindetta. There's a bunch of good punters out there. So,
yeah, the real key is that your center, your long snapper's got to be John Dornbos.
Dornbos.
He's the guy. But
yes.
Yeah, defensive coordinator, you got to go with probably Jim. Well, you don't have to go. I'd have to go with Jim Johnson. He's going to be the best one in my fandom lifetime that we've had. If you were one of the real old school guys, you could go with, a Wade Phillips or, some of those older guys that was before my time. But so, yeah, that's who I'd have to go with there.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be surprised, but a lot of people go with Schwartz because he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I was not a Schwartz fan.
Who's going to be I'll say like this. I'll say head coach or offensive coordinator. If you got an offensive coordinator and a different head coach, then you give me both. But if your offensive coordinator was your head coach, you just give me that.
Okay, yeah. I'd take Andy Reid.
Yeah.
He's the head coach. He's also the play caller, so that's kind of one and the same for me. But I loved Big Red. I was so glad to see him finally get over that Super Bowl hump with Kansas City. Made it easier that we had already won ours, but I would have been rooting for him either way. I'm not a bandwagon guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm going to be pulling for the Chiefs anytime they're not playing the Eagles.
I do.
Just because I love Andy Reid, and he's got. At the time, I was ready for Reid to go. You could tell that it was getting a little stale, and you can only stay in one place for so long. I never thought he was a bad coach, but I did think it was time for a change, and I'm glad the change worked out for him too. So we both got Super Bowls. I love it.
I just hate the fact that how it was. It wasn't even just like all his fault. At the same time, he had a lot of personal life stuff going on with his
Mhm.
kids and whatnot. So it's just like that was a sad way to see a legendary coach for us go out. Like it made me sad that day when he left. I was like, give him one more shot. Give him one more season. It's been red. Give him one more season, man. Richie, I've never done GM, but do you have a GM in mind?
Anybody that's not Howie Roseman.
You don't like Howie?
No,
You hate him?
I'm not a very big Howie guy. So I'm not a big Howie Roseman guy, but I think he's kind of a weasel, to be honest.
But
And I
think
think
about his job, though. But think about his job. It is part. You got to kind of be a weasel to do it. It's kind of like lawyers, you know what I'm saying? You got to con some people to get some players to play for you. Look what he did. Took us under 70 million under the cap. Brought us over the cap, got us some nice players that we can fill some patchwork with, and he finally had a good draft. So you gotta respect the guy for what he does too. Like he was named one of the sleaziest GMs in the business, but I believe that all of them are probably sleazy at some point. They're gonna say whatever they can to get the guy to come play for you, and it's not,
yeah,
But hey, man,
I'll tell you for sure who my GM wouldn't be is Chip Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody gets mad about Howie, but what about Chip just dismantling our awesome team? You got rid of Shady, you got rid of Macklin, you got rid of Jackson. That was our offense.
I'm going to tell you though, that first preseason game when Kiko Alonso made that one-handed interception against the Falcons, I thought Chip Kelly was a genius. I was like, maybe we sold LaShawn McCoy at the right time because this Kiko Alonso guy looks incredible, and he never did that again.
Brian Maxwell.
I hated that one at the time.
Man, that was rough, man. But hey, man, it's been great, man. I think you said you think the Cowboys are going to win a slim margin. Did you give me a score prediction?
I didn't. I'll say I think it'll probably be a pretty high scoring game. I think the Cowboys got the offensive firepower to probably overcome a little bit of our defense, and I just don't think they have a very good defense. I'll say it comes down to the very end. Cowboys take it 31-28.
Okay. Now we got the 31 part right, but we got it for the other team. You know what I'm saying? I think this week, Nick Sirianni takes that good look in the mirror and realize that people are questioning his ability, and he comes back hot with an awesome game plan this week. Our defense shirts it up, and we actually go into Jerry World, and we put a whooping on them. We put a whooping on them. I got the Birds winning 31-10.
Right.
Birds this game, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really feel like, that if we would have even won that San Francisco game, a close win, against that San Francisco, say we would have came back and scored a touchdown and like 1-4 or something like that, then we could have went into Jerry's World, a little bit too high on ourselves, you know what I'm saying? I think that was the perfect time to get that wake-up call, that slap in the face, like, hey, and to see that Nick Sirianni came out there and was like, hey, it was on my bad. I need to call better plays. I need to do better. We could have won that game, but it's my fault. That takes a real man to do that. So I think Nick goes to the drawing board and he makes some awesome play, awesome game plan for this game. And we go out there, we show them Cowgirls what time it is. You know what I'm saying? 31-10. Yes, I said it, Flores. I know you're a Cowboy fan. Birds winning 31-10, my guy. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, go ahead and let everybody know. We still got 15 in chat. Much love to all you guys rocking with us the whole show. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. It's been nothing but pleasure, doing this for you guys. And like I said, please hit that like and subscribe to both of our channels. All the links are inside the chat. So make sure you guys, on the way out, go up there and subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the Painting Lines or to Bird Game 31's channel. So give them a last little rundown. Or do you have anything else you want to say, like a last little take on this game?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Eagles Cowboys week's always special, especially going to be on Monday Night Football. So, Jalen Hurts is going to have his guys ready to play, and so I'm excited. I can't wait. Mondays after losses are awful.
Yeah.
And then you get into the midweek and you just get so antsy for the next game. And so I'm so amped up, and I can't believe I've still got to wait like 6 more days.
Right. We got a minute to go. We got a minute to go, but it's gonna be well worth it. Give them a rundown where all they can find you at, my guy.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at halfandhalf_TPL. That's HAFF. It's my last name. So you can search me out on there. I live tweet during almost all of the Eagles games. There's a few of them I'm not able to catch live, but I tweet out clips and thoughts as we go. You can find all of my work written on thepaintedlines.com, and all of my video stuff is at the Painted Lines YouTube. Particularly, I host a podcast called Chalk Talk with my co-host Mark Henry Jr., and we do a week in review show and then a week preview show, typically like Mondays and Thursdays each week, just to review what we learned the week before, break down the upcoming week. We kind of split the show in half. We do like 30 minutes Eagles and then like 30 minutes scattershot the rest of the NFL. So
Nice.
kind of take an X's and O's approach. And so it's also on Apple Podcast if you want to download and listen that way. But we are on video kind of like this as well. So I'd love for it if you guys would check us out.
Nice, man. That's awesome, man. Also, like I said, we do got the network, the All Eagles Network. If you have not subscribed to that, go ahead and go subscribe at Bird Game Nation Sports. I think on YouTube it's still Bird Game Nation Sports Talk Media. Oh, it changed? Okay, so it's just Bird Game Nation Sports Media. We up to 70 subscribers. Come on, guys. If you guys have not subscribed, go subscribe. Great Eagles content. You find me on there, JC Eagle Talk, Eagle Uncensored, a bunch of other great ones. Cool Cat Connors, Philly Notion, a bunch of good Eagle content creators on the network, and with more to come. So make sure you go check it out 7 days a week, all Eagles content. You know, the link is in the description. So hey, it was a great show. If you ever want to come back on the show, or if you want me on the show, you know, I'll be more than happy to come by. You know, I'm always happy to talk to them Eagles. You know what I'm saying? So fly, Eagles, fly. And until next time, this was Bird Game Nation Sports Talk. I am the host, Bird Game 31, and we are out. Peace.